Welcome, everybody. I'm delighted to have you here this afternoon for our Headucation, the solution to better mental health in schools. Our Headucation project is what we're going to be focusing on today and explaining to you and hopefully inviting you to take part in that very exciting project. So before we go into what it's all about, I think it's really important that I actually introduce myself to you so that you know who you're talking to today and we can already start to build that partnership. So I am Paula Talman. I am the Outreach Director for Shawmind. But I have a very big background of working within the healthcare sector and the education sector as well. So I originally started off as a registered nurse for the adult healthcare sector, and then I took a big interest in pediatric healthcare. So I went back to university and I trained to be a registered pediatric nurse. And I worked for many years across all sectors of pediatrics, but had a particular focus in pediatric A&E. And during my time there, I would have had lots of connections with young people coming through our A&E departments with mental health issues. I decided that through my experience in pediatric A&E that I wanted to understand more about young people's mental health and healthcare professionals' attitudes towards those young people when they came for care and support in A&E departments. And so I went back to university for a third time and I did a master's degree in advanced pediatric nurse practitioning. And I did my research on adolescent mental health issues and healthcare professionals' attitudes towards them. And what I learned from that research and that training and my experience, both in the A&E departments and across mental health hospitals as well, was that if we were really going to have the greatest impact on supporting young people with their mental health and the adults that they become, of course, was to look at the education sector and look at mental health proactively rather than always in the reactive sector. So I moved from healthcare into education. And I've spent the last 17 years working in education and have a really great connection and partnership with teachers across schools in the UK and some schools abroad as well. So I'm learning lots of things that are happening across the world, not just in the UK. And what is really significant is that mental health is an issue for young people globally, not just in the UK. But what we're all trying to do is to have a look at how we can support and help within the education sector. During my time in teaching, because I taught on the PSHE curriculum, so I have a very close connection with that education curriculum there and the government's requirements for that. But during my time in education, I became a safeguarding lead. I became the director of compliance, health and welfare within schools, and I also became a school inspector. And as part of my role within the PSHE curriculum, I became a mindfulness coach so that I could teach attention training activities to young people in my classes. So I have a huge background in education and in health. And I also designed a mental health and wellbeing curriculum for schools to support them with the government's requirements around RSHE. So I'm also very capable and able to support teachers and schools in trying to find a solution to their education and curriculums. But what I'm really passionate about, as you can tell from what I've said so far, is proactively working with teachers and young people to provide better mental health for our young people and to build their mental fitness. So I moved into Shawmind, this wonderful charity that is behind this webinar today. I became their outreach director because we shared this passion and this mission to support our young people through education. And then that really brings me on to our Headucation project, which is why you're here today, to hear about that and what it could do for you and your school. And the Headucation project really is around giving you everything you need to empower you and enable you to confidently support the pupils in your school. But it's more than that. It also helps and supports you, not just you personally in your work environment, but in your life as well. And I'll explain more about that as we go through this presentation. So you can see here on the screen what Shawmind, the charity, is all about, and how it's really focused on helping young people and the adults that they become to live their lives successfully and to flourish and thrive. But it can also do that for you too. So the contents that we're going to cover today are here on the screen, and I'm going to talk you through each and every stage of that now. And what I think we should always start on is, what is mental health? Because people get confused about this all of the time. And I know from my experience of moving from the healthcare sector into education, there is, differences in understanding around that term. And the way I would like to describe it, it's written here on the screen, the exact terminology to describe it to you. But I think that people quite often get confused between mental health and mental illness. And so I've mentioned that there are two visual ways of trying to explain this to people. And one is looking at mental health as a continuum, like this line. And at one end, you have your optimal mental health, your mental wellness, the best that it can be. And at the other end of this continuum, there is mental illness. And mental health encapsulates all of that. And we move along this line throughout our lives from day to day, depending on what is happening and what is going on for us. So everyone has mental health, and it can vary from day to day as to where we are on that continuum. And then another visual that I really like is about the iceberg. And lots of teachers may already have heard about the iceberg analogy, and you may have seen it on social media, and lots of different ways of using it to describe young people and what might be going on for them in their lives. So you can see from our definition here about how mental health impacts how we think and how we feel and how we act. And if we think of our analogy of the iceberg, with the tip of the iceberg, the bit we can see is those behaviors, how people are acting. And the driver behind that quite often is our feelings and our thoughts. And the trigger is below the iceberg. All the things that are happening in our lives that are triggering those thoughts and those feelings that result in those behaviors. So that's another nice way of trying to understand and visualize mental health, and how we might be able to describe it in some ways to our young people or anyone that we might be talking to. So then let's look at our challenges. Now, the stats for mental health around young people, if you've been following Shawmind on Instagram, on Twitter, or on any other platforms that we're on LinkedIn, you may see that we've been posting a lot about statistics around young people's mental health. And one of the statistics that Young Minds actually put out recently, which really shocked me, was this first stat here on the screen around the number of referrals in the month of March 2022, this year. 90,000 young people were referred for outside services in March 2022. Now, that is a shocking statistic. And Young Minds, who I follow and connect with as well, they also put out a figure of 850,000 children suffering from some form of mental health issue. And this was back before the pandemic that they put this statistic out there. So I'm sure that given the figure for the referrals in March this year, that figure has increased as well. Now, how can we visualize 850,000 young people. The way I can visualize this is by using Wembley Stadium and visualizing children sitting in those seats. And it's not just filling Wembley Stadium once, it's 10 times Wembley Stadium. And that, again, is just shocking to think that that is how many children in the UK are trying to manage their mental health through outside services. And that brings me on to my next point, is that our outside services, our reactive services, cannot cope with these figures. They just cannot cope. Now, our government are trying to make a difference around this and talking about training, mental health leads, but they are way behind in trying to put these people in positions where they can offer services to young people with their mental health issues. So this is why it's so important that our schools are involved in this support, proactively involved in this support, because it can make a big, big difference. We have an army of people in our schools that can support and help. But I understand that the immediate thought that may come to teachers is that we are trying to help our own mental health at the moment in schools. Teachers have been severely impacted by the pandemic and by life in general, and the demands of the job that that they face. So I completely understand that, and we will support and help you too. So we also have the challenges of the impact of the pandemic, the impact on the economy that that we are up against at the moment, and that we know is going to be greatly impacted even further this winter. So we must be bearing that in mind when our children come back to school, that they may be coming back with the baggage of the pandemic, but also with worries around family finances. And then, of course, there is stigma. So let's have a little look at stigma, because stigma has been there since, I think, time began around mental health issues. And over the last decade, I believe that we have been really trying to make a very big effort in breaking down stigma around mental health. Because, as I said in the beginning, we all have mental health and we all need to be empowered to be able to look after that mental health. Because it is so important, because it impacts our lives in so many different ways, as you can see here on the screen, some of the different ways that it can impact us. And what I believe is so important from all the research and all the experience that I've had is that bringing the conversation about mental health, mental fitness into our everyday life conversations can really normalize it for our young people and for ourselves as well, if we have it in our everyday life conversations. And teaching children who and how to ask for help is essential, and teaching it from a very young age is so important, because that's what brings it into their everyday lives. The challenge we have at the moment is trying to introduce it to teenagers, because they've already developed a certain habits and certain beliefs, and so we are trying to break those down. Of course, they've got the influence of their peers as well, so it's quite challenging to address it with our teens, but we have ways to do that. We have solutions, but if we introduce it early, that is the best place to do that. And then, of course, we have that little section on the role of the teachers and how important you are to those young people, because at the end of this webinar, you will have access to a guide on attachment theory. And it's really important that all teachers understand attachment, because it can be that one person in a child's life that no matter what is happening to them, if they have one person, one secure attachment, it can make the greatest difference, and it can really help them to continue to succeed in their lives. So being that one teacher, being that one person can be so important in turning around the life of a young person. So again, just looking at our stats, they're there on the screen. But what I really want to get across here is the illustration, is that mental health the mental ill health for our young people is on a trajectory, and it is climbing and climbing year on year. In 2012, the stats for young people was around 1 in 10 young people were suffering from a diagnosable mental health condition. The next year that increased to 1 in 8, and now we were recently looking at the stats being 1 in 6. So really, we have got to intervene and put solutions in place very, very quickly. So what can attending today's webinar do for me, for you, the listeners? It can do so much, because it is going to provide you with the solutions to the challenges you face. And it's also going to give you an understanding of how you can develop transformational skills for yourself in your own life, for you personally, for your family, and then for the children that you work with as well. So it can really make a big difference to you as a person. It can empower you and your organization to change culture within your schools. And it can also be the beginning of a working relationship between you, your school, and the charity Shawmind. And I also believe that when we develop these transformational skills, we are also improving our opportunities within our career. And I think that's really important to teachers and to healthcare professionals who may be interested in this webinar as well. And what you'll also gain at the end of this webinar is these little guides that I think are really important to every school, to every teacher in building this new culture around how we talk about mental health and how we build mental fitness in schools. So you'll learn about our mental health training offerings today and how it will enable teachers to spot the signs and symptoms early for mental health issues in young people. And it will also help you to better educate the children that you're working with, or your own children or your own family, around mental health issues. It will help reduce the stigma around mental health. And really, something that is so important to everyone is to know signposting and where you can go for extra support and help. The knowledge and understanding that you will gain from the resources that you can receive from our mental health charity through our training, or through just communication and contact with us, and through our website, where we have an understanding series with lots of different training courses you can access, and also lots of different guides that you can access as well. But it will be transformational because it will enable you to care for yourself. It will equip you with the skills that you need. It will empower you to identify concerns early, and it will also build your confidence. A lot of the teachers that I talk to talk about, oh, I'm worried about talking to young people. I don't know how to start the conversation. I'm afraid I'll say the wrong thing. I don't know where I can access outside support. I keep getting bounced back from the outside support that I'm trying to receive. Where else can I go? We can help you with that. And then we also need to think about the difference it could make to your school, because it can make a big difference to your school. And I don't mean just tick box exercises, because I know that that frustrates teachers. And it doesn't just frustrate teachers, it frustrates the children as well. And they know when we're doing tick box exercises, especially the conversations I have with young people around PSHE. And they know when we are doing it as a tick box exercise, rather than doing it for them and giving them a takeaway. They need takeaways, they need tools, not just filling them with information. They need the takeaway, and that is what we can do for you. But in doing that, we can help the young people within your school to flourish and thrive. And when they flourish and thrive, they will attend school. They will attend their lessons. And I don't just mean just physically, mindfully attend their lessons. They will absorb more, they will listen more, they will be more motivated around their learning. I've also noticed that in schools where mental health initiatives have been put in place through training, that there are better relationships with the special educational needs departments within their schools. and better learning, cross-learning happens. And then they are able to better support students within the classroom, and there's less demand then on the SEN departments. So that is something we have seen happen. We've seen better exam results for young people, and we've also seen an improvement in their behaviour. And of course, when we see improvement in behaviour, we can also see a decrease in the need to exclude children from lessons or from school. So, and then of course, there are the tick box exercises, which we all have to do around our inspections and around our safeguarding. And we can support and help you with that. There is a great synergy between what we can do and support you with and your safeguarding leads within your school and your mental health leads. So really important, that particular piece. So knowledge and skill. I have always found that knowledge and skill is my superpower. As I said at the beginning, I have been through university a number of times collecting and gathering certificates and degrees and knowledge, and that has totally transformed me and empowered me and enabled me in every aspect of my life. So I love this little quote here around mental health, and it being behind every behavior there is a feeling, behind every feeling there is a need, and if we address the need, we focus on the cause and not the symptoms. Now, through knowledge and training and upskilling, you can address the need and make a big difference in your school. So, understanding young people's mental health. One of our courses addresses that and can really support and help you with that, because we can see here how it impacts a young person's life. And these are the foundations here on the screen. And when I talked about be that one teacher, and when I say that, I mean, have the knowledge, have the skill, have the ability to connect with young people so that you can provide them with these things. This is also incorporated into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if that's of interest to you, please do look at that and find out more about how you can provide young people with those solid foundations. And of course, we mentioned early intervention and how important that is. And through our training, you will be able to do that really, really well. And this will, have a great impact on your young people's future and the adults that they become, because it will also have an impact on their risk-taking behaviours, because through educating our young people and providing them with tools, we have discovered that it does decrease their risk of engaging in risky behaviours. So question time. So what I really would like to know is what type of training you have already had, and what is of interest to you. Have you had mental health awareness training in your school? Are there only certain people who are selected to have that training because there's financial constraints within your school? Have you had other training that I haven't listed here? Or have you had no training at all? I'd be really interested to hear what is happening in your schools and what type of training you have had. Because of course, if you don't see something that you're interested in within our Headucation program as it exists today, or you've already done something that's listed on our resources, then we'd like to hear from you anyway, because we have a development team within our organization that is constantly developing new material, and we can also do that. So who's involved? Because it's not just me, there is a team behind what we do. And here is a visual board of some of the members of our team. You can see me there on the screen, but you can also see Peter, who is our CEO, and Hannah, who is our training and development manager. And then there's also Laura on our screen as well, who is our fundraising manager. And we all work together to make sure that we are delivering the best service to the organizations that we work with. So our Headucation offering at the moment, which Headucation just stands for the project that we deliver in schools around all our various different resources and training offerings that we can give you. And they are fully funded through grants and also through corporate donations. And of course, we also get involved with schools through their fundraising activities. And we'd love to hear from you if you would like to run a fundraising activity, which can be run alongside us at Shawmind, and that would really help us with further development of our project and also the partnership that we can offer to you. So it has great value, to not personally, but also financially to your schools. And so let's have a little look at what these training courses entail. So the first one that we offer, the Mental Health Aware course. This is a 3-hour online course that teachers can do in their own time, because we are really aware of your workload and your time constraints. So this can be a dip in, dip out course, 3 hours long. You can do an assessment and you can get CPD accredited for that. And it really gives you a good foundation to mental health awareness, gets you started. So then we also have our youth mental health awareness course, and this can help teachers to understand that youth mental health in greater detail. It is a half-day course. It can be run online with a tutor, and it can also be run on site within your schools. And it's a lovely, lovely course, again, to help you to have that skill that gives you the confidence and the knowledge to really connect with your young people. We also have the mental health first aid qualification, and this will give you a mental health first aid certificate. And it is run over the course of 2 days, and it is instructor led. And we can discuss with you whether that can be delivered online or whether it could be delivered on site as well. We have also just developed our trauma-informed course. And I think this is so important, this course. And we know that looking at our challenges at the very beginning, that the impact of the pandemic may have caused trauma for an awful lot of young people. Another area where children can experience trauma is through death and bereavement. So being trauma informed within your schools is very important. It helps you to really deal with crisis and traumatic events. I know from my experience of working with within schools, we've had a death of a teacher, we've had the death of a pupil, and it can be really distressing. And it's really great to have had the education and the training before you're confronted with a crisis like this, because it can be very emotionally challenging and traumatic to deal with. So being trauma informed is so empowering, and I would recommend that people do that course. As I said, it's just been developed. We're waiting for it to have its CPD accreditation, and just so you're aware, all of our courses go through a psychology assessment by a consultant psychologist. So they're all regulated. We also have a peer mentoring program, and I'm very excited about this peer mentoring program because I think that it's really important to empower our young people, to help them to become guardians of their own mental health and mental fitness and well-being. And through this peer mentoring program, I believe we could make a very big difference in terms of empowering our young people, and also bringing in that normal narrative to our everyday life and engaging our adolescents. Because if we can promote them in a way and educate them around their mental health and empower them to help younger people, I think that we can make a great difference here as well. So we can put this program into your school by training a supervisor within your school to select and train a mentor, which will be a pupil, a senior pupil within your school, who can then support a mentee, which will be a junior pupil within your school, with helping them to build their mental and emotional fitness and emotional resilience as well, which is really important. Then we can also help you with your assemblies and your class learning activities as well. And we can do this bespoke. So this is something you would contact me about. We would have a discussion around it. Think about what you need to address within your school, and we would work together to help you to provide that education through either your assembly or your classroom sessions. So please do contact me if you're interested in that. So now I would like to again just engage you in some conversation and through our chat and find out a little bit more about your schools. So what I'd really love to know is what work you have done around your mental health policy. We know that the government has introduced our statutory RSHE requirements, and we know that Keeping Children Safe in Education 2022 is about to become statutory on the 1st of September. And in there, you will see there is a lot around children's mental health and what we are doing in terms of our safeguarding and in terms of our education within our schools to ensure that we are providing for education around children's mental health. So I'm really interested to hear about your policy. I'm also really interested to hear about your mental health strategy within your school, because I believe that having a strategy is the foundation for changing the culture within your organization and also making impact rather than having a document that is just a tick box exercise. It's about seeing it in practice and how it is actually implemented and where does the evidence come from. So interested to hear if you have a mental health strategy, and perhaps if you could let us know also about what types of awareness you have around particular mental health issues as well. Some of them are listed on the screen. The ones I'm particularly listed actually are because I have seen an increase in each of these due to the pandemic. So I'm interested to hear what you have noticed within your schools. And I'm also interested to know if you're aware of attachment theory and what education perhaps you had around attachment theory in your teacher training or within your school environment. And I'm also very interested in play. I introduce play into everything I do with young people, no matter what the age. And so I am really interested to hear what you have within your organization, in your school, that introduces play into the conversation. I know that primary school sector are very good at introducing play in the early years. Sometimes it pitters off as we move up through the primary sector, but when we get to the secondary sector, sometimes we can find that really difficult to introduce play. And it can be introduced in many different forms, and we just have to get creative with how we do that. So I'm interested in what you do with that. When I go to have conversations with people, I always have a bag of Lego. And again, as I said, no matter what the age, they engage with the Lego, it takes away the eye contact, and the conversation can get started better. So that's just a little tip for you. And I'm also interested if you have had nothing at all, so please do tell me if you've had nothing as well. So the whole school approach to mental health and well-being within your school, changing the organization's approach to it, breaking down the stigma within your schools. And we're not just talking about the teachers and the pupils, we're talking about the parents as well, and how you can begin to do that. And it's not just Children's Mental Health Week that we should be talking about mental health and mental fitness. It is every day if we're going to make a big change. And so the foundations, as I said, are your training, then it's your strategy and policy, it's that attachment theory, knowing what that is, and it's also about introducing that play as well. I'm just having a look at the chat here. Are the peer support training sessions for peer workers, or how to develop the peer program? So the peer support training introduces to a school how to deliver the peer support program within your school. So it helps to train the school to train a supervisor initially on how to support a mentor, how to select and support a mentor. And then there's also training for the mentor on how they can implement what they have learned to a mentee. So it brings you through the stages from supervisor to mentor to mentee. And we can support and help them along their journey as they deliver, as we teach them that and as they deliver it. So yes, so the whole school approach. These are the foundations that I'm particularly interested in, and particularly interested in helping you in as well. So we all know that we're just about to return to school. I still work in schools. So just so for your awareness, I work in schools 1 day a week. So I have that connection, supporting them. I know the challenges that you face. I speak with teachers regularly, and I'm supporting them regularly. So just for your awareness, I do still work in schools. So supporting the return to schools, these are the things I've been thinking about. First of all, one size doesn't fit all. So when your children come back, please try to engage with them individually. You know, blow up their balloon of self-confidence by connecting with them, showing an interest in them, finding out about what they've done over their holidays, and just making them feel special on your return. I know many teachers will do this, but in the commotion of everything and the busyness of everything, sometimes we can get carried away and forget to see every single child. And I know that that's hard, but perhaps we can challenge ourselves to it, because it makes a big difference to that child. Be that one teacher, as I talked about earlier. But I also think it's important to remember that for your colleagues, coming back to school in September doesn't always mean they've rested and they've recharged. I often find that with working in schools, people forgot that, and they felt that everybody is coming back fully charged and ready to go. And but what they're forgetting is that lots of things kind of happened during that holiday time, and that can have significantly impacted a teacher or their family. And so we must remember to engage with our colleagues as well and really connect with them. And you know, when we say, hi, how are you, how was your holiday, and we say, yeah, it was fine, ask a little bit more, dig a little bit deeper, because sometimes we're just programmed to automatically say that, but underneath, just remember the iceberg, underneath that might not be true. So keep connecting and engaging with your colleagues. And remember that you're not alone. There are lots of organizations out there that can support you. There are teachers within your organization that will support you. But we are also here as well. Shawmind are here, and we are waiting to hear from you and to see how we can support. So the resources that I talked about earlier, I've listed them here on the screen for you. We have the guide on play, we have a guide on attachment theory, and we have a guide on a strategy as well for your school, really understanding strategy, because that strategy will help inform your policy. And also within that strategy, it really gives you an insight to what's under the water when we look at the iceberg. And so, because sometimes when I work in schools, they say things like, oh, Johnny is great, he's coping really well, despite the fact that all of this stuff is happening in the background. But when he comes to school, he's happy, he's playing with his friends. So, you know, I think we just leave him be. But actually, when we have those things going on in our lives, it will impact us in some way. So it is important to engage in that young person. I always use the wording, you know, express it, don't suppress it. So sometimes when we see young people and they seem to be and appear to be managing, they may actually be suppressing things. And it's like when we suppress things, it's like pushing a football underwater and holding it under there. But what happens eventually is that football bounces up and it hits us in the face. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but later on. So it's important that we are engaging in our young people and being aware of what's happening for them and making sure that we're supporting them. And when the moment comes that they feel they want to express things, they've got that lovely connection with you built really solid, and they know you're their one person, you're their one teacher they can go to. I've also put on here an emotions activity pack for you that you can again download. These are all on our website, and you can find them in our store on our website. And this little emotions activity pack is for primary school teachers, so that they can, on the return to school, introduce this to their children as an activity. It really helps you to find out how they're doing, what's happened in their holidays, and really little bits and pieces about that person as an individual. So a little fun activity pack there for you as well to download. So in conclusion, what we can do for you. We can do so much for you, really. And I think that what we've just gone through can really demonstrate that for you, all the things we have to offer. But you know, this knowledge and skill that I talked about, it's so empowering, and it will really make a big difference to your life within your homes and within your schools. And it also, it just helps you to let children know there is people that they can go to and ask for help, people they know, because we spend so much time with children in schools, and the fear of referral to people that they don't know, you know, that can be quite scary for young people if they think the first contact they're going to have is with somebody they don't know. But if we build up the narrative within our schools that there is help and support within our schools, there are identified people, and those identified people aren't sitting in offices within our schools, they're out there connecting with you daily, and it really just helps to let those children know who and how to ask for help. And what we can also do is, as I said at the beginning, building a partnership with an outside organization that can help you with some of the burden of all of these things, all of this, you know, new learning for you, new skills for you, then to implement these things. Don't feel you're on your own. Know that we are here to support and help you. So that just brings me to the end of our presentation, and opening up the opportunity for you to ask any questions at this point, if you wish to do so. I'll keep an eye on the chat. I know that we are recording this session today, so it will be available to all teachers who wish to have a look at it, and all head teachers and governors. Don't forget to bring your governors into the conversation around your mental health strategy for your schools, and of course your parent teacher association as well, so your parents can also listen to the things that we can support and provide your school with as well. So it is there for anyone to listen to again. So then just contacts for you. You have the Shawmind website that you can go to. There are various contacts there that you can reach out to. And then, of course, I am Paula Talman. I am the Outreach Director for Shawmind, and will be engaging with schools around this Headucation project, all of this training that we have to offer. And I am available for you to reach out to by email. We can contact on Zoom calls, we can have telephone conversations, and we can build that working together relationship. It may be that your safeguarding lead might want to reach out to me to find out some more information, or it could be your well-being lead within your school that needs to have that extra support and help. But I do believe that these people who are identified in your schools as leading the mental health initiative within your school, they need the support from everybody. It's, you know, it has to be a whole school approach. Everybody needs to have invested in this initiative. And so training all of your staff is important. So thank you very much for listening today. I hope I've provided you with lots of information to think about, and also lots of takeaways, the tools that you need to support and help you, because that's what it's all about, empowering you and giving you what you need, not just a tick box exercise. So thank you very much for attending, and do please reach out to me and let's connect and get started on doing something amazing.